This is Chris with Dive Zone Scuba for another technical diving tips, techniques, and trips video. In the last video on necklaces, I briefly mentioned that I was going to do a video on multi-tools related to scuba diving, so that's what we're going to talk about in this video. So I have here on the table different tools that I've used at different points in time for scuba diving, and what we're going to do is we're going to go through them one by one and talk about the use of the tool and some advantages and disadvantages of the tool. So the first thing I'm going to say is that for many divers who do absolutely no maintenance or work on their scuba gear, you may not need any tools at all. So this particular video is more directed or targeted at the diver who does a small amount of work themselves, or can also do servicing on the regulator. So we're going to be talking about these different tools. Alright, so obviously there are simpler tools like single blade screwdrivers and regular wrenches. That's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about tools that have multi-functions. So the first tool that we're going to talk about is this wrench, and as you can see, this particular wrench has multiple openings for everything from a 1/2 inch all the way up to 11/16, and from 13 millimeters up to 19 millimeters or 3/4. And so some of the more common ones that you'll use are the 9/16 and the 14 millimeter and the 17 millimeter. So it is important to have a single wrench like this, either a one-piece wrench with multiple uses, multiple sizes, or a single wrench, because some regulators, if you're going to take off the regulator, you actually need 2 wrenches to successfully take off the hose off of a regulator in case you need to do something to the regulator, adjust it, or if you need to replace the hose. If you don't do that, then you can cause problems with the trying to actually disassemble the hose or properly tighten it. So this is a very useful tool. I did modify this tool. It comes a little bit longer with the handle. This came from www.scubatools.com, which makes a number of different tools for scuba maintenance, and I cut this off to make it more compact so it could fit in my little tool bag that I carry when I travel. So this is a very useful tool here. So the next tool here, this star-shaped tool, has again different size slots for wrenches, and then it has a thing for the a valve nut, and it has a couple of different common Allen keys. This is for like the port plugs and so on. And this is nice because I actually carry this one with a little lanyard. I actually carry this one in my utility pouch on the front of my my plate and my wing system. So this is a very useful, very handy tool. It is made by Excess Scuba, and it does occasionally get corrosion on there, so you have to periodically clean it off. But this is very useful for emergency type repairs. This tool has a specific use, and it is a tool for the common K-valve. And so this tool right here, you need these prongs. This is kind of a spanner wrench. You use these prongs to disassemble the inflation cartridge out of the K tool. And then this part here is usable for, again, the same thing that this is for, the nut in a valve. So this is very useful. You can actually get by without this tool if you need to disassemble your K valve. In one of the earlier videos, I showed how to use a common kitchen fork, dining fork, to create the spanner like that. Here's another one-piece tool, and this again has multiple size wrench openings here. Same thing with the, you could possibly use this for tightening a valve. It has some spanner, some small spanner pins here. This is useful for taking apart some regulators. And then this tool can be used for some Scuba Pro hoses that have the splines in them. So here are some typical simpler one-piece tools that are very useful. On this row here, we have now these two are like little multi-tools, and they have a bunch of different things. Typically, they'll have a flathead screwdriver and then a Phillips screwdriver right here, and then they'll have some small. This one has some small Allen wrenches. I've never had occasion to use either of these small ones, so possibly they could be replaced with something else. Here's a little thing for a socket thing down there. And then on the other side are some common, this whole thing is metric. This one is good for the port plugs, and this one is good for adjusting the orifice inside the most Mare's regulators. So this is another simple tool. Here's another multi-tool, one of these little folding deals, and it has its own version of things, like this thing here for the tank valve nut. And then it has a couple of Allen wrenches here for like port plugs. It has a very useful pick here, in case the pick that you have in your O-ring kit you don't have one of those. This is good for that. And then it has this thing here, also another useful tool. This is the tool that is used to loosen or tighten the Schrader valve inside an inflator hose. And then it has the Phillips screwdriver here, and then there should be here's a flat blade screwdriver here, and this is again used for adjusting most other regulators, the orifice in most other regulators. So another very handy tool. These two tools right here together don't take up very much space, and so I usually take one of each of these on a trip. Alright, so one of the other wrenches that you might need is an Allen wrench, and this particular Allen wrench is, adjustable wrench, is made by a company called Sea Dog, which makes a lot of marine tools, and it is made out of stainless steel. Most stainless steel adjustable wrenches don't seem to have very good tolerances, and but this one is okay for certain things. I did grind this off because sometimes you don't have a lot of clearance with some of the regulator nuts. So I ground that off in order to make it a little bit more usable. It still has quite a bit of face right there, so that's good. More commonly, the things that you see if you go and you look in online, you'll see wrenches like this that have a variety of different openings on there. And this one I broke the blade off on here, so that's kind of messed up. And it has the typical Allen wrenches for removing port plugs. So it's got a few of those. It's got a pick. This pick's not very good because it's so large. And then it has the Phillips screwdriver, and then on this side is the flat-bladed screwdriver. So this is one of the common type tools that you'll see. This one is entirely stainless steel. You see some that are out there that are not stainless steel, and those in the marine environment don't really last very long. Here's a wrench, and you can see that this has not been maintained too well. I don't really use this that much, and you could see it has a smaller face right there. I don't remember if I ground it down or if it came like this. But this is, you can see how sloppy this is, which is not uncommon for a lot of stainless steel wrenches. This particular one's made by IST, and it does have the usual Allen wrench keys and some screwdriver blades and so on, and the not too functional pick. So this does have the ability to be a adjustable wrench, but it's not very precise. All right, so what that brings us to is tools like this multi-tool that are not specifically designed for scuba diving. And so I have this particular tool here as a representative of a lot of the multi-tools that are out there on the market. There are tools made by Leatherman, Gerber, I think Schrade at one point made some, and a few other companies, SOG. And this is the one that I use currently, and it is Made by a company, it has an Asian name too, but the US version of it is called the Next Tool, and this is the Flagship Pro. And so there's lots of different versions out on this, and for the Next Tool, Flagship Pro, there's actually two versions of this one. Okay, one that has a non-locking main blade, which is not too slick. You can modify this to make it a locking blade if you're handy with the Dremel tool. That might take a half an hour to turn into a locking blade, but you can also buy them with the locking blade on there. The funny thing about this thing is I think I paid $22 for this tool, and I've been using this one for quite a while, and it seems to be holding up well. It does have a locking blade here on this saw. Okay, so I have never actually had to use a saw in a scuba application, but it's just one of these tools that's out here. It's a typical multi-tool plier, and in this case, this particular one, which I think is a little bit better, has a replaceable cutter in case you damage it. So you could potentially, if you had a piece of rubber or something, or a piece of neoprene, you could use this thing in conjunction with this thing, or this tool here, or even this tool to be able to take apart a regulator and change out the hose. But what is really good about this tool, let me see a couple of other things, is it has kind of a package cutter there. I use that frequently, and then it has a regular flathead screwdriver there, and then it has. Sometimes these tools are really hard to get out. This, by the way, is also I guess they call them two-dimensional Phillips head screwdrivers, which are barely functional, but it has. This is the other thing that this thing has, is it has a little deal here, and I'm not really sure why the tip is like that, because a lot of things that would have the can opener, Swiss Army knives are small screwdrivers, but this has a can opener. So when I'm looking for a multi-tool in general, there's two things I need besides the pliers. One is a can opener, and then the other is this. Okay, this is why this is a very unique tool, is that this tool has a gigantic scissors, and I would even go so far as to call this a shear. So the reason why this is so useful is because it's a very large size, and you can easily cut wire ties with this because there's so much leverage, and the blade is so large. So the fact that you can cut a wire tie with this thing alone makes it an extremely valuable multi-tool. And so this has supplanted the different tools. I used to carry a Leatherman Wingman because it had a scissors, and it had a can opener on there, and then of course the pliers and a few other things. But the fact that this has a gigantic scissors that can easily cut wire ties has made this my multi-tool that I actually carry every day. Alright, so what that does is it leads us to this strange thing. Okay, so this, when it was functioning, this is made by Leatherman. It was called the Leatherman Crunch. And you can see that. You can see the Leatherman Crunch right there. So the claim to fame to this thing, and it has like a really weird implementation, is that it's actually one of the few, or it was the last multi-tool that actually had a vice grip function here. And so that worked really, really well until it broke. Okay, so, and I didn't really put that much force on it. It actually cracked right here. And the usefulness of this, of course, is this is totally broken. I should go and return this. But it was very useful for dealing with the mounting bolts on twin sets. It was very useful for that. So you could actually clamp this on to the bolt and then use a wrench to adjust the bolt. So I will probably try to invoke I think the warranty is 25 years on these. I'm going to invoke the warranty on that. It does have some other tools. It has like a kind of a semi-serrated blade, and it has a pretty good screwdriver, Phillips screwdriver, although it is flat. It has a file on there. Okay, I think that could probably be useful. And then it's got a little mini screwdriver that's probably useful too. And then it has a larger screwdriver. So the one thing that is definitely missing out of this, okay, is a can opener and also a scissors. So this is, I consider this more of a general purpose multi-tool, something that I would not carry on an everyday basis or necessarily have in a toolkit that I always took. But the vice grip was is relatively rare on multi-tools, and it was definitely useful. All right, so those are some different multi-tools that I have used in the past and do use currently to give everybody an idea of what's available out there. I'm sure there are many other multi-tools, particularly multi-purpose multi-tools like this, but I'm sure there are other scuba-specific tools that are out there. So this is definitely not all-inclusive in terms of what you have available to you. One big thing is try to get a multi-tool in stainless steel for obvious reasons. A couple of dunkings, getting wet. Saltwater environment really has a tendency to eat up the tool, and if you can't get that, make sure you have good chrome plating. But I, for example, would not necessarily bring an adjustable wrench that was not stainless steel, because those higher quality carbon steel wrenches, although they're very precise, much more precise than something like that, or definitely like that, they do have a tendency to be more rust prone. Okay, so that's it for this video. This is Chris with Dive Zone Scuba. I hope this video was helpful, and thanks for watching. Please subscribe.